Welcome everyone to day 2 of EEI's 5th Annual Global Electrification Forum, or GEF. If you are just joining us today, my name is Vanessa Ferrero, and I'm a manager for international programs at EEI. I'll be your MC throughout the next couple of weeks. We're kicking off day 2 with an opening session on charging ahead with all electric vehicles, and we are excited to be joined by Volvo's Chief Technology Officer, Henrik Green, who will be in conversation with Brian Wolff, EEI Executive Vice President for Public Policy and External Affairs. Without further ado, please welcome Brian and Henrik to the stage.
Thank you, Vanessa. I really appreciate that. Welcome. It's awesome to be with you all today at the Global Electrification Forum. Couldn't be more excited with charging ahead with electric vehicles and the future that really is ahead of all of us with regards to electrification and electric transportation globally. And EEI and our member companies, we're the United States investor-owned electric companies. We're working hard really every day to ensure that our customers have reliable, affordable, secure, and clean energy they need and expect. Our industry is really leading this clean energy transformation globally. And as we look to serve our customers and communities, even amid this COVID-19 pandemic, and we all know that electric transportation is critical to our industry's clean energy transition and to really achieving the carbon reductions across the economy, and really to gain insights on how a global automaker really views the issue. We're really fortunate today to be joined by Henrik Green, who is the Chief Technology Officer for Volvo. I can tell you, reading so much about Henrik and his time at Volvo, he actually started his career at Volvo in 1996. And when you think about that, the transition in 1996 in the auto industry from what we might consider to be 3- and 4-cylinder engines to different powertrains that the auto industry has evolved over the years. But Henrik has really had several positions within Volvo and led the development of their new engine in 2000. And he later led the initiative on the 3- and 4-cylinder that I mentioned, engine strategy. And he actually spent a year in Dearborn, Michigan at Ford Motor Company's headquarters to really align a lot of the power control software activities, not only at Volvo, but Ford Motor Company and also at Jaguar Land Rover. And he's been really a key figure in not only producing the products and a strong vehicle lineup, but he's also been really an integral part of planning the next move with regards to electrification that Volvo has announced. And I think that electric companies, we have a tremendous opportunity for partnership in front of us with automakers like Volvo, who's completely announced by 2035 will be all electric. So Henrik, I just want to be able to turn it over to you and offer a few opening remarks in your keynote, and then we'll dive into some questions. So welcome.
Thank you so much for that great introduction, Brian. It joys me to hear, and especially I'm honored and very happy to be invited to speak at this event. As we have said now, my name is Henrik Green. I work as the Chief Technology Officer here at Volvo Cars. Now, at Volvo Cars, we decided quite recently that already by 2030, we will go all in on pure electric vehicles. We will sell only pure electric vehicles as of 2030, only 9 years away. But let's go back to the beginning of this story and take us nearly 100 years into the history and the birth of our company. Already at that time, our founders concluded that cars are driven by people, and therefore safety should always be at the heart of Volvo Cars. And since that day, we have carried safety as our core value, as our purpose going forward. Now, fast forwarding back to today, we can see that planetary safety is as important as human safety or people safety. We stand in front of climate change, a threat to our planet that we need to protect. So for that reason, we have also expanded our purpose. And today, we aim to provide freedom to move, personal, sustainable, and safe. Now, coming back to sustainability, we also conclude that there is no room for combustion engines in that sustainable future. Not as pure combustion engines, neither as hybrids, not even as plug-in hybrids do we actually see a future that is sustainable for the car industry. Now, we believe actually only in pure electric battery-powered vehicles. So, is that only for the reason, a very good reason, but only for the reason of sustainability? It's not. And I can be a bit anecdotal here. I've been driving a Polestar 2 since the first few of them left the factory gates more than a year ago. And as a consumer, I can just conclude I would never again go back to a combustion engine-driven vehicle. And as you heard in the introduction, I've been working with combustion engines nearly all my life. So, as a consumer, I would like to pay for the smooth, responsive, immediate power, the fun to drive of a pure electric vehicle, and at the same time be part of a sustainable future. So for that reason, it's not only driven by sustainability, that we also see that it's a better business to go into fully or pure electric vehicles. People will be more willing to pay for that product, which is better. That also means that for us, it's better to be part of a growing segment and grow together with that than to be part of a shrinking segment. Now, is the world all joyful and happy if we fill it with electric vehicles from day one? Well, unfortunately, it's not. And we stand in front of quite some challenges that we need to tackle together as car industry, as energy providers, as legislators, as society. And I would like to start with the fact that producing a pure electric vehicle is increasing the CO2 footprint with nearly 10 tons compared to a combustion engine-driven sibling. So just out of the factory gates, the pure electric vehicle has emitted 10 tons more of CO2 than the combustion engine car. And that needs to be addressed. And the biggest part of that is the source of energy that we use producing the battery. So we need access together to battery manufacturing with clean and renewable energy. Now, the other part of the production footprint, mainly driven by aluminium and steel, also need access to CO2 solutions, clean energy, and a zero climate neutral footprint. But that would be the same for the combustion engine cars and the pure electric cars. So access to that clean energy in the production of the batteries. Number two, it's access to clean energy during charging. Being honest here, if you drive a pure electric vehicle in Europe today with the average energy mix, it's borderline during the life cycle if you're actually emitting a smaller CO2 footprint than driving a very efficient hybrid car. So we need access not only for production, but for everyone that uses these electric vehicles, we need access to clean and renewable energy. And if we do, that vehicle becomes extremely clean during the use phase. So, is that all? Well, there's actually a third thing. And I'm going back a bit anecdotal here to today, I'm actually driving the XC40 pure electric, the Volvo branded vehicle you see behind me here. And I quite recently took a holiday ski trip up to northern Sweden together with my family. And I drove the XC90 hybrid. It was the same story last summer. I went down to south of France with my family. again, the XC90 hybrid. Now, why did I make that choice? Quite simple. The reliability, the access, and the easiness to find and pay for charging is limited, at least where I live, and mainly throughout Europe if we look at statistics. So we need to be able to find and charge fast and reliable if you're going to conveniently conduct long road trips in a pure electric vehicles. But with these three challenges in mind, getting access to clean energy in the production of the car and foremost the battery, getting access to clean and renewable energy for the people that use the car, and having a network, a charging network throughout the world, which is easy to find and easy to charge really fast. With those, we see that an absolute majority of people would choose to go for the pure electric alternative. And that is also the alternative that will give us all a sustainable future. It would make Volvo Cars a sustainable and profitable company. As I said, we cannot do this alone. We need partners, energy providers, legislators, society, governments, but we are here to do our part of that journey. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to make that introduction, and back to you, Brian.
Henrik, that was incredible. Thank you for your remarks. I can tell you that we couldn't agree more with regards to the points you made, really around partnership. None of us can do this alone. And so I appreciate you making those comments, because if we're truly going to think about electrification in society, we're really going to have to, and your anecdote was so on point. We're really going to have to solve for these things that really matter to consumers, right? As well as the customer experience. So I want to ask you and start off with just a couple of questions here. You mentioned, and I was really fascinated by your kind of whole of company approach to electrification and really changing and transitioning Volvo to all electric. And I really was caught by your remarks that, when you all talked about your 100 years of safety, right? And that was truly the North Star for Volvo for so many years. But now you really mentioned the fact that sustainability has really come into the picture in a big way. And I really liked your reference to planetary safety, just as important as the safety of the vehicles. So I'd like to know just a little bit, Henrik, but just a little bit how you all got there. Like, what were you talking about? Because it impacts, when you talk about it, it impacts so many things. Because it impacts the supply chain, right? It impacts all of the places that you're going to go for supply chain products and clean energy services like that. So I wanted to know how you all sort of packaging that up and plan to accomplish that. Can you go into that just a little bit deeper?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really interesting story that we have behind us here. And I would say that we came from a couple of different angles. I think that we came from hybridization. We have done plug-in hybrids for a while, and we sort of naturally can move into pure electric vehicles for the attribute as such, for the power, the performance, the efficiency. People like the silent drive. So we actually started to work on electrification, not only driven by sustainability. At the same time, I believe we, as many other car companies or companies, any kind of company actually, work with sustainability for being an ethical and responsible company and taking responsibility for what we do and do our duties. And then when we started to lay these two together, and we also, with that culture we have around safety, people safety, we came to the conclusion that we need to sort of bump up sustainability from being part of a corporate agenda to actually saying this is real life safety for the planet, as we do with, I don't know how well you know how we work with people safety, but we're not just following what the legislators and the institute tell us. We really try to research and find out how do we actually save all the people's lives that we can. And we want to take the same approach to sustainability here even then. And that's why we also talk about the use phase. What is the energy that people charge when they use their cars? We just not calculate with zero tailpipe because it's a battery electric vehicle. We need to be sure that the access to energy is clean. And well, coming together for those two worlds, we actually decided a few years back only to register our company with a different purpose, as I said, provide freedom to move, personal, sustainable, and safe. And the point there being really adding sustainability into the purpose of our company.
Well, Henrik, let me ask you a question, because this, that was an excellent answer, but I kind of want to dig a little bit more because, it's such a, we've had some automakers, GM announced that in the States that, that they were going to be all electric, I believe by 2035, 5 years after you all. But I'm just curious, what kind of work did you all do as far as really doing the proper customer research to really uncover that, yes, that customer demand was actually going to be there enough for you to be able to make, your original transition was always 50%, I think, by 2025, and then it was 100% by 2030. So how did you really go about doing the work to say that customers are demanding this? How did you see that out, since you're a global company?
Well, I mean, in any non-linear change, which we foresee this to be in society or the industry, it's always very tricky to predict the future based on just extrapolating the past. So of course you cannot make a trajectory out of the history here that points to all cars being pure electric in 2030. So I think that what we have to add on top of those standardized method of forecasting is the fact that we know the product so well now. We have worked with it and we use it every day. So we can see this is inherently a better product for the end user. There is no reason why you would not want this product instead of the old product, except for the charging network, which is the annoying part, living everyday life with a pure electric vehicle. So that has to be solved. So that is coming from the product angle. The other angle is basically counting backwards and saying we need to be a climate neutral company, and you can pick a year, 2030 or 2040. It doesn't really matter. There is no budget for combustion engines if you're climate neutral. It has to be pure electric and it has to be run by renewable energy. That's the only real climate neutral operation that we can see.
Right. I completely agree with that. I wanted to dig just a little bit, some of what you've uncovered at Volvo, Henrik, has been really around the customer experience. And, I really like the fact that Volvo is really leaning in, on the whole online experience. It's that a customer can actually go online and find it really easy to not only interact with the company, but from purchase all the way through to charging installation. I was really taken back that the fact that it's kind of one-stop shop, that you could purchase the car, you can buy the insurance, you can set up your maintenance, you can set up your warranty, and you can set up your home charging network. And I have not seen actually that comprehensive of a package and customer experience in any of the other automakers. So how did you all get there, and how did you all, because you had to plot that out. And I want to get to another question with regards to the charging part that you mentioned, but I wanted you to answer that because it's really a holistic environment that you've created, to be from purchase all the way through getting it home to charging.
Well, I think it's a really good question, and I will try to answer it. You could probably talk about this for quite a while, but I will try to answer it from a couple of angles. One angle would be, okay, there is no immediate technical connection between pure electric propulsion and the rest of the digitalization of the car, but it's very strongly psychologically connected, and it also makes for very neat and easy, simple, non-complex solutions. So it's very intuitive to say that now we build these pure electric vehicles, get rid of the 12-volt system. It's only powered by 400 or 800 volt. We put massive computers in there because we have the power. We can put AD technology in there. We get over-the-air update of software. And then you start to spin on that and see that you can build an entirely different product. Then you come into that product doesn't need service as much as a traditional combustion engine, which is typically the engine stands for top 10 of everything that you change during service of a vehicle. And with the autonomous technology, even before it is autonomous, it can heavily reduce injuries and accidents, which would reduce insurance or damage repair cost. And then you start to bake that, you can come from that angle to start to bake that into a really interesting customer offer. The other angle to see here is that, okay, we stand in front of a new technology, battery-powered vehicle. The batteries, to be honest here, they are extremely costly. We are putting $100 per kilowatt hour worth of battery in a car, and that's a big chunk of money per car. So how do we make that business sustainable? And then you start to address, well, you can take down the insurance cost because the car doesn't crash because it has safety technology. Well, and we can include service and make the package more attractive, which is also something that we can pull down costs in a pure electric vehicle, and we can do this and that. And then you come from the customer end, finding a viable business where you actually, okay, as a customer, you have to pay for that expensive battery. But in the end, you don't have to pay for gas. You pay less for insurance. You pay less for service. You pay less for maintenance and a lot of other things. And then you come up with a package that is both attractive from a consumer, it's attractive for us as a business, and it's really all enabled by the fact that we started with the electric propulsion system in the heart of the car instead of a gas engine.
Yeah, I find that fascinating. I wanted to ask you one aspect of this that you and I can see if we can maybe make some progress on as far as talking about it. In the UK, I think they've had some luck with public-private partnerships on infrastructure, charging infrastructure in particular. Have you thought about something unconventional with regards to charging infrastructure and partnerships that might deploy infrastructure in a way that is meaningful to Volvo?
Well, I think we see partnerships as a key solution to strategically improve the user experience for our customers charging their cars. And why do we say that? Well, if we were 10 years earlier, we could have elaborated to build our own charging network, because that was probably the only thing to do 10 years ago. Now, if we look 5 years into the future, it's not sustainable if every car company builds its own private charging network. So somehow we need to come together, either in partnership with third parties or partnership together with the car companies that are already out there. But we really see that that's key for us to improve the user experience for our users using the electric vehicles. And I think partnership is the solution that we should go and want to go.
Yeah, we're really trying to pick that up here in the States, which is, partnership, anything that we can do to accelerate the deployment of infrastructure. Because clearly, if you don't solve for that part, we're all going to have that issue, right? And the clock's ticking for you all with, being 9 years away, but, also having a 50% goal by 2025 really means that it needs to be solved right now. For you all. We've got one more question just related to the use of the car. How much, typically I know Volvo cars and trucks are different, but what do you think the annual maintenance cost for those One of our viewers wants to know, just when you compare that to an ICE engine, what do you look at? I mean, you mentioned the highest cost of the car we know is the battery. So what do you think about that? How would you answer that?
I'm not sure I fully follow. I would say that in a combustion engine vehicles, most of the maintenance parts, the service parts that you exchange during maybe a 20-year life cycle, they are part of the combustion engine or gearbox. While in a pure electric vehicle, you have a lot less moving parts and a lot less serviceable parts. And the further you go with friction brakes and instead use regenerative braking and the e-machines to brake, you even put down service need on the brakes. And soon there is only air filters and fluid left to sort of maintain during the car life. But the battery as such is interesting. And here we also need to wait and see a bit, because there is a very scarcity of old products yet out there. And we will see that as they grow older. But basically, we can, of course, take batteries today and reuse them in different applications. They can be used at home or as storage in solutions that is non-automotive. We can try to remanufacture them into new batteries, taking the good cells and swapping out the bad cells. I actually think that the long game here for car industry, it's recycling the black mass of the batteries. It's really taking the core of the chemistry inside the battery, recycle that into a completely new battery. So the ideal solution I see, it's basically a cell-to-body structure where the battery is sealed for life. And at a certain point in time, when the car is written off, that battery is going back into the manufacturing, the factory, the battery plant, and being fully recycled into a brand new battery.
That's excellent. Henrik, let me ask one last question. We have time for one last question from our audience. And I'm actually going to give it to one centered around maintenance. I guess when I mentioned it earlier, it caused one of our audience members to ask a question related to that. The auto industry has typically, with regard to maintenance, that's been the biggest part of the profit center that auto dealers have, for example. How do you help transition them off from a future, instead of depending on the maintenance of the vehicle to bring profits to the company, to do that elsewhere within the context of the supply chain and cost to the company? That kind of seems like an issue. I know in the U.S. it's an issue because they don't necessarily in a dual showroom where you have an ICE vehicle and you have an electric vehicle. We find that they're preferring to show the ICE and try to sell the ICE vehicles before they attempt to sell the electric vehicles, simply because of the maintenance contracts and the maintenance upsells that they get. How would you answer that for our audience today?
Well, I mean, I would say that that's obviously a very important question to deal with in a good way. And I think that both as a car company and as a workshop, as you said, the service today is providing a big chunk of our profit. And going forward into a more circular economy and a more pure electric based vehicle technology, that service business will go down, and we need to find other ways to earn money together. And in the new car business, or in the second life or third life of the vehicle business. But I mean, as the profit goes down, also the workload goes down. So it's a cost reduction for us, as well as it's unfortunately a profit reduction. But so it's new ways to seek that money together.
That's right. That's right. Henrik, this has been such a great conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time. And we're certainly going to be charging ahead and looking at Volvo in the future and charting your progress. We'll certainly reach out to you and to engage again. Hope to get an update from you real soon on this. Okay.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Henrik.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Henrik and Brian for starting our second day off with such a great conversation. As more car manufacturers, cities, and countries are setting their own EV targets, the electric power industry will certainly be playing an important role in transportation for years to come. I'd also like to thank all of the audience members who have been putting questions in the Q&A. We really appreciate it, and we'll continue getting to as many questions as possible throughout the event.